Elon Musk raised the alarm, but the West brushed it off. While the world was getting lost in the chaos of AI, automation, and digital takeovers, one of the sharpest minds alive, Elon Musk, called out a reality that too many chose to ignore. As CEOs and innovators obsessed over replacing humans with machines, Musk was looking in a different direction. He wasn't watching code. He was watching people. And what he saw wasn't a trend or a shortcut. It was a workforce the world had underestimated for far too long. He saw the Filipinos. From Silicon Valley boardrooms to Wall Street power lunches, his words fell on deaf ears. Nobody took it seriously. But now, things are shifting. Companies are struggling to keep up. Productivity is crashing into walls. And finally, people are starting to get it. Musk wasn't throwing out a random idea. He saw a future others couldn't. And now, everyone's scrambling to catch up. But why didn't they believe him? And more importantly, what does this mean for what comes next? Stay close, because this story will change the way you see the global workforce and who's really leading the charge. Now picture this, a world where billionaires didn't overlook a country bursting with intelligence, skill, and unshakable determination. A world where visionaries looked beyond their bubbles before the clock ran out. Only one man did, Elon Musk. When everyone else was dismissing the Philippines as an afterthought, he was paying attention. Where others saw stereotypes, he saw strategy. And now, the rest of the world is waking up late. The question is, how did this shift even happen? How did the Philippines go from being underestimated to becoming one of the most dynamic economies in Asia? What exactly did Musk spot that gave him a leg up on Zuckerberg, Bezos, and the rest of the tech elite? And why didn't anyone else listen? Musk has never played by the rules. When he said electric cars would take over, they laughed. When he insisted reusable rockets would change the game, they rolled their eyes. And each time, they were wrong. Now, the warning he gave about the Philippines may turn out to be his most game-changing move yet. So what did he see, really? Why is the world suddenly tuning in? Keep watching, because what comes next might flip everything you thought you knew about global power and innovation. Elon Musk has never followed the crowd. When government space programs were gasping for air, he was sketching blueprints for Mars. When the auto industry dragged its feet, he was building Tesla into a force of nature. But here's something most people missed. Long before the headlines started praising Filipino tech talent, Musk was already making moves. Back in the early 2000s and 2010s, while the tech world poured billions into Silicon Valley and Chinese factories, Musk quietly shifted focus to the Philippines. And no, this wasn't some cost-cutting outsourcing play. He saw something deeper. The Philippines wasn't just a talent pool. It was a launchpad. These weren't clock-punching employees. They were innovators, engineers, builders. They had the drive, the mindset, and the versatility to power his boldest ideas. When people still saw Tesla as a joke and SpaceX as a billionaire's toy, Musk was already building something with purpose. While other tech leaders labeled the Philippines a call center destination, he saw an army of untapped developers, coders, and specialists ready to engineer the future. SpaceX required elite problem solvers to perfect launch systems. Tesla demanded relentless attention to detail in AI and battery research. Musk knew exactly where that power was waiting. So why was no one listening? And now that reality's setting in, are they too late to catch up? Because the Philippines had something rare, a combination of skill, drive, and an edge the world kept sleeping on. And for Musk, this wasn't only about numbers and margins. This was about building what's next. While the Western tech world turned its gaze elsewhere, he quietly began looping Filipino software engineers into confidential, high-level projects: AI, automation, robotics. And there was another ace up his sleeve: engineering infrastructure. Tesla's level of precision doesn't come easy. You don't meet that standard without world-class microelectronics talent. Musk didn't find all of them in San Jose or Shanghai. He found many in Philippine universities, hungry, brilliant, and waiting for a chance to shine. While Zuckerberg obsessed over social media tweaks and ad revenue, Musk launched satellites. In 2022, he made a massive move, selecting the Philippines as one of the first countries in Southeast Asia to get Starlink, his high-speed satellite internet. This wasn't a PR stunt. This was a calculated leap. He wasn't just giving them internet. He was removing the one thing that had held them back for years. For Filipino freelancers, remote engineers, and digital creators, the roadblock wasn't talent, it was connection. Musk saw the chokehold of outdated telecom networks, so he crushed it. And the ripple effect? It's only beginning. So now what? For decades, slow connections and monopolized networks had trapped the Philippines in a digital cage. Brilliant nines, blocked by infrastructure. No matter how good they were, they couldn't compete globally at full strength. But overnight, Starlink changed the game. Suddenly, Filipino coders weren't limited by lag. They could jump into real-time collaborations from Manila to London. No dropouts, no barriers. Data scientists were building complex models without internet crashes. Startups in Cebu were pitching global investors through flawless video calls. The world still saw the Philippines as a cheap support center, but Musk saw a different picture. He saw a vault of raw, world-changing talent. A country overflowing with innovators, thinkers, and creators who were ready to take on tomorrow. And now, it's happening. Major global research centers are teaming up with Philippine labs. Venture capitalists who once passed on Filipino founders are suddenly scheduling meetings. And the very nations that used to look down on the Philippines, they're now dissecting its education model, scrambling to figure out how a supposedly low IQ workforce started outperforming them. That myth of Filipino inferiority, it's in pieces. And the ones who believed it, they're already paying the price. But here's what most people never learned. The Philippines wasn't always dismissed. In fact, in the early 20th century, it was one of the shining stars of Asia. American, Japanese, and Spanish investors were lining up to pour capital into its infrastructure, agriculture, and industry. And Manila wasn't seen as another developing city. It was called the Pearl of the Orient, a booming financial and trading hub that rivaled Singapore in Hong Kong. The country had everything going for it. Abundant resources, a population fluent in English, and a prime location for trade. Foreign investors flocked in, and during America's colonial rule, U.S. policymakers had a massive hand in shaping the country's financial structure. It worked for a while. Even after gaining independence in 1946, the Philippines stood tall as one of the Southeast Asia's most advanced economies. But beneath the success, deep cracks started forming. Political chaos, financial mismanagement, and shaky leadership began chipping away at the progress. By the 1960s, the warning signs were impossible to miss. Bribery, red tape, and unstable policies made investors nervous. Meanwhile, nations like Taiwan and South Korea were executing master plans, aggressive industrial programs that sent their economies skyrocketing. Then came the turning point. The 1970s and 80s brought short bursts of foreign interest, especially in mining and manufacturing. But a string of financial meltdowns and political unrest crushed investor trust. While its neighbors sprinted ahead, the Philippines started falling behind. But here's where it gets interesting. The game isn't over. In fact, a new chapter is already unfolding. And those who dismissed the Philippines, they're beginning to realize they misread the whole play. So, is the country on the brink of its biggest comeback? At first, the Marcos regime looked like an economic boom. Massive roadwork, bridges, airports. But behind the sparkle was a growing shadow, ballooning foreign debt and a corrupt circle of elites draining the system. That bubble eventually popped. And when the People Power Revolution swept Marcos out in 1986, the nation was in deep trouble. Debt piled up, factories closed, investor confidence vanished. And while the Philippines tried to pick up the pieces, Singapore, it exploded forward. The same Singapore that once lagged behind the Philippines was now attracting multinational deals at lightning speed. Under Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore became the ultimate business haven. Clear laws, zero tolerance for corruption, and an economy built for global success.
While Singapore opened its doors to global capital and made it easy for businesses to thrive, the Philippines got stuck in a maze, choked by paperwork, sidetracked by politics, and dragged down by inconsistent leadership. Opportunity after opportunity slipped through his fingers. But the story didn't stop there. As the century turned, the Philippines started fighting its way back. Successive governments pushed for reforms, eager to rebuild credibility and bring back foreign investment. It worked. Business process outsourcing exploded, real estate boomed, renewable energy gained traction. By the 2010s, momentum was building fast. Credit ratings improved, global confidence returned, and the economy roared back to life. But some shadows still lingered. Outdated infrastructure, deep-seated corruption, and tightly guarded protectionist laws held back the next leap forward. The talent was never the problem. The question now is whether the country can finally shed the weight of the past and rise into its full power as a global economic force. Elon Musk has always had a sixth sense for spotting untapped opportunity, and when it came to the Philippines, he knew something was shifting. A new wave of leaders, young, reform-driven, future-focused, were embracing digital transformation, transparency, and global partnerships. The country was finally carving out its spot in the global arena. Tech sectors were expanding, renewable energy was gaining real traction, infrastructure was being overhauled, and through it all, Musk was already making his moves, getting in early while the rest of the world was still distracted. As foreign capital began to return in force, one big question hovered over everything. Would the Philippines finally escape its pattern of false starts and missed moments? Or would history repeat itself? Then came the twist no one saw coming. The future suddenly looked blindingly bright. Analysts now project that by 2030, the Philippines will be one of the biggest economies in Asia, competing head-to-head with giants like Japan, South Korea, and India. With a population that's young, skilled, and tech-savvy, plus a fast-evolving innovation ecosystem supercharged by Musk's early investments, the transformation is happening fast. Could this finally be the moment the Philippines claims its place on the global stage? Silicon Valley may have sparked the tech revolution, but cities like Manila and Cebu are quickly becoming the next global hubs of invention. What used to be seen as an outsourcing destination has evolved into a launch pad for AI breakthroughs, robotic engineering, and yes, even space tech. Filipino engineers are no longer tucked into the background. They're on the front lines, leading Tesla's self-driving research, coding the neural networks of the future, and disrupting entire industries with homegrown innovations. And that's only the beginning. The Philippines is now stepping boldly into the space race. Filipino scientists and engineers are working directly with SpaceX on Mars colonization projects and orbital research. Locally built satellites are joining the global fleet, and the country is developing aerospace tech with serious commercial and scientific value. Filipino-run labs are now experimenting with sustainable power sources for deep space travel. The future isn't around the corner, it's being built in real time, right here, right now. So the question is no longer if the Philippines will rise, the question is how high will it go? Because this is no longer the country people used to pity or overlook. By the end of this decade, it's set to become a magnet for high-end manufacturing and global capital. The tech coming out of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao isn't secondary, it's central. The Philippines is building semiconductor factories, EV battery plants, and biomedical research centers that rival the best in the world. It's diving into everything from quantum computing to advanced prosthetics. Filipino innovation is no longer the underdog, it's the game changer. And the rest of the world, they're finally noticing, but maybe too late. The same billionaires who once scoffed at Filipino potential are now racing to lock in partnerships. Mark Zuckerberg is scrambling. Meta, Apple, and Amazon, companies that once ignored the country, are now trying to break in. But here's the problem. Elon Musk already beat them to it. He saw the wave long before it crested. He forged partnerships, developed talent pipelines, and helped build the infrastructure that made this leap possible. And now, the Philippines isn't riding someone else's momentum, it's creating its own. Homegrown tech unicorns are competing on the world stage. Filipino companies are stepping into spaces once dominated by Western monopolies. The tide has turned. But what does all this mean for the West? The signs were there. The potential was obvious. The talent off the charts. All the West had to do was listen, invest, and collaborate. Instead, they chose to overlook, dismiss, and delay. Now, the world is shifting. The Philippines is no longer catching up, it's leading. So the real question is, will the West open their eyes before they lose even more ground, or will they once again underestimate a nation that's already outpacing expectations? Elon Musk warned them. They didn't listen. But this story is far from over. In fact, it's only just begun. The Philippines is rising with vision, with purpose, and with a generation that refuses to be overlooked. With the right leadership, smart investment, and relentless drive, it's carving out a new future, on its own terms. Now it's your turn. Do you think the West will finally wake up, or is this the start of a massive global power shift that no one can stop? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what you think.